Are you ready for Meatless Monday? I know when you first start a plant-based diet, trying to cook everything from scratch can be super difficult. You're used to making things from packages or just as my sister-in-law likes, as, as a friend of mine likes to say, you have too much ingredients and not enough food. Well, we're going to show you how to use some ingredients to make food super fast. I'm going to do a little meal prep here. I'm going to show you how to do a little meal prep, and my garden is producing lots of zucchini. So one of the things I want to show you how to do is take this zucchini and all the vegetables I chop up today and how to make them into lots of different recipes. Because sometimes if you have a bunch of things in the fridge, you end up thinking only the same recipes over and over again. So when I wrote the cookbook, or when we wrote the cookbook, we divided everything into categories so that we made sure we have a good variety of foods. So for example, Sunday might be soup and sandwich, Monday would be like a meat and potatoes kind of deal, then we would do pasta and Mexican and rice, and that's kind of how we did it. And we could use these same vegetables in every single one of the categories. So I want to show you how to do that so you're not feeling like you're eating the same thing all the time, but you also don't have to keep a bunch of little packages in the fridge of prepackaged meal portions, because I don't think that's very appetizing, and it's kind of sad to have to eat that way. But before I show you all those recipes, or show you, I won't be making all the recipes, I'll be making the fajitas today, but before I show you how all the recipes I could make with those and the different processes that would be used, I am going to try a new recipe that I've not tried before. It looked like a fantastic addition to my fajitas. It's like a taco chicken made out of tofu, and the way that they made it was different than I've seen before a little bit, and it seemed super easy. It seemed like really good for meal prep, so that I can make this up, have it in the fridge, and throw it into my fajitas, change up the flavor and throw it into my pasta primavera, change up the flavors and throw it into my stir fry, and still have a nice protein to go with all of my meals that's different but tasty at the same time. So the tricky part about doing this, well, there isn't a really tricky part, is we're going to use tofu. I've already drained my tofu, and it is, I've already drained my tofu, and we're just going to crumble it into pieces. Oops, I'm going to drop this extra water out. This is Costco tofu, extra firm. Costco tofu is a little firmer than other tofus that you might find at different stores. So I like to use it for my chicken replacement, but you don't have to. You could use any tofu. You might want to do a little tofu press with it, or not a tofu press, put it in your tofu towel for a few minutes to get some of the excess water out, because it does have a higher water content. And we're breaking this up into chunks about the size that you would like to have in a, in your fajitas, or the lady who was making this when making hers into a burrito, I was thinking this would make a really great wrap. So with the leftovers that we have from the fajitas for supper tonight, I can easily make it into a wrap for lunch, and so that would be really tasty. And okay, that's what we've got. I'm only doing one package of tofu today because I've never tried the recipe before. I'm not sure how it's going to come out, but if it comes out good, I would do 2, 3, maybe even 4 packs of tofu at once, and that way it's ready for you when you need it anytime during the week. So I need a towel to dry off my hands. And let's add some seasoning. What she had in hers was some cornstarch, and that gives a nice crunchy texture. So we're going to go ahead and add that. Just a tablespoon or so. And then we are going to do a sprinkle of taco seasoning. Now, I typically make my own taco seasoning, but I didn't have any on hand. So I'm using a store-bought taco seasoning. And you have to be careful when you're using store-bought taco seasoning, and later we're going to add some chicken-style seasoning. Both are really salty, so you have to be careful not to over-season, or it's going to be super salty. When I make my own taco seasoning, and I do have a recipe for the taco seasoning in the cookbook that doesn't have any salt in it, you can adjust the salt as you need it, which is my preference. Okay, so that's the hard part of the recipe. Look at that. that's all done. I'm going to put this on my tray. I do like to spread this out and line it with parchment paper, because the parchment paper helps it to not make a mess, and I don't want a lot of mess to clean up. There's one thing I like less than chopping and cooking, it's doing the dishes. So that's all we need to do. We kind of don't want them touching each other because we want to get them all dried out, even drier than you want to eat them, like crunchy and not quite edible when they're done. So let's put these in my little toaster oven over here, and then we can air fry them until they are crunchy. And while we're doing that, we'll talk to you about how we make our other ingredients. Okay, while that's cooking, we are going to get our stuff ready for the week, all the different things that we can make. I've already went ahead and did a lot of my chopping. I always make a big salad, and this is the start of my big salad that I start during the week. So, because at lunchtime every day, I always have a big salad. I know not everybody likes that, but I didn't like eating salad before either, and now I miss my salad if I don't have it, because I'm trying to get my 2 to 3 servings of fruits and vegetables at every meal. And if I eat a whole big salad, that's 4 or 5 servings. And if I wanted to have a meal without vegetables, I could do it. So I always do a big salad at lunchtime, and I have it all prepped ahead of time. And the trick to making that salad last a long time is to make sure your lettuce and your vegetables are all super, super dry. So I always do my chopping first. Then you can run it through the salad spinner or dry them off. Make sure that they're super dry before you throw the salad all together. That dry lettuce and those dry veggies are going to make sure that your salad stays good for 3 or 4 days in the refrigerator. So to my salad, I also like to, I've also chopped up some spinach. I put that in here. And I'm going to save some of this chopped spinach to go into some of our other recipes, like the pasta primavera. If you see, I don't just put the big leaves of spinach in there. I chop it up because, you know, a lot of people don't like spinach, or they don't like the leaves kind of turn into big wilty things that are not very appetizing. So I always have some spinach in my refrigerator and also in my salad. In addition to spinach, I chop up cauliflower, and I'll add that to this. I need a bigger bowl for my salad. It's currently full, so I will get to that in a little bit. And I also chop up some broccoli, and that also goes in my salad and also in the fridge for different recipes. In addition to that, I even chop up my purple cabbage, and I put that into the salad, and I also save it. I sometimes will put it in a soup or something if I have it on hand, because I do love cabbage in a vegetable soup. One thing that is super, super important to chopping is always having onions and peppers chopped up, because onions and peppers are the base of everything, at least in my kitchen, and I like to start with those. If you don't like onions and peppers, I guess you don't have to keep them in your fridge, but this saves a lot of time, and you get all your onion crying done with at the beginning of the week, and you don't have to deal with it at all during the week, and that is super great. To chop all these up, I use my Whopper chopper. It's a nickname we gave to this chopper machine. Sometimes it's a Vidalia onion chopper. We call it a Whopper chopper because the kids were little. We let them use it to help chop vegetables when we were doing a lot of cooking. So I'm going to start chopping up my zucchini and my summer squash. And I want to show you how I deal with these big zucchinis. When you have a super big zucchini, it gets really big seeds in it, and some people don't like them because of that, but I scoop the seeds out. Sometimes you can go to your garden one day and you've got a little tiny zucchini, and the next day you go out and it looks something like this. I don't know how they grow so fast, but they certainly do. And so here we go. this one you can see has a lot of seeds and stuff in it. Need to grab a trash bowl. If you're wondering about open shelves, I know there's always a lot of talk. Do you want open shelves? I love my open shelves. And I use them like I would use a cabinet. I just don't have to open cabinet doors to get the stuff. So I love my open shelving. Now, I'm just going to scoop out these extra seeds so that they don't mess up my dishes when I'm chopping, because you don't really want to have, you know, seeds like that in your stir fry or in your pasta. So we're going to get rid of those. Oh, goodness. That one's hard to get to. I don't know why it's having such a hard time. Sounds like my toaster oven's hot, so that's good. It shouldn't take too terribly long to get those chopped, or to get those cooked up nice and crispy. Super curious how those come out, because if they come out good, that is a fantastic, super easy way to have some tofu prepped in the fridge, or yeah, prepped in the fridge all week long. I have friends who, you know, say they haven't quite figured out how to cook tofu, and they don't know, you know, it always just doesn't come out quite right. And so I'm always on the lookout for super easy ways to cook tofu. A lot of people think about cooking tofu as just chopping it into squares or something like that, but and then trying to throw it into a stir fry or whatever. But that's not the only way to eat tofu. Some of my favorite ways is to get that super firm tofu and shred it up and make the tofu ground beef. I just made some tofu pepperoni, and it is fantastic in salads and on a pizza. And that rest of that video is coming out soon. So if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do that, because you'll want to see that video. It's super easy. And of course, it doesn't look like pepperoni. It's not the little round. You can make it that way, I suppose. But I shred it, and it's super easy to just throw into things. My next big thing is I wanted to make a chopped sandwich. I love sandwiches. And so I figure if I could shred this tofu, make a couple different flavors, and throw them in there with a bunch of veggies, that would make a humongous, really good chopped sandwich. So I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, I treat zucchini and summer squash or yellow squash as kind of the same thing. So I'm going to do one zucchini and one summer squash, and these are big ones today. So I'm going to chop this one up. I did already wash these after they came out of my garden. Don't worry about that. Those seeds, I can hear them. Yep, there you go. So one really great thing about the zucchini, and I know you get tired of it. My husband last year was so tired of eating zucchini. I actually ended up making an apple crisp out of zucchini. It was a mock apple crisp, and nobody at Potluck really realized that it was a zucchini until I told them that I made the apple crisp out of zucchini. But that was my attempt to keep using up my zucchini. But what I learned is that this zucchini, when you chop it up, freezes really, really well. It doesn't, you know, hold its shape, but you can throw it into all kinds of different recipes. So if you want to make a minestrone soup, or add it to a vegetable soup or something like that, it's easy to have on hand and use it like that. If you shred it before you put it in the freezer, then you can use it and have zucchini bread in the middle of the winter, and zucchini patties. If you've not tried the zucchini patties on the YouTube channel, you should really check those out. Those are a really great way to eat a lot of zucchini, and they're higher in protein, and they're really good. So if you haven't tried those, I strongly recommend them. We are not having those this week though. All right. All the hard part is done. We are going to chop. Now, you have a couple of choices when you're chopping your zucchini. These are the tiny chops. I've already got some done here. You can see. Can you see how small those are? You can also use this size. Let me show you what size that looks like. Let's chop this in chunks. it also gives you that size. So the comparison between the two, either one works. I tend to go with the smaller size for zucchini and things like that because I like to hide them a little bit. When you have a big old chunk of zucchini, some people turn their nose up, but if it's that small, it really basically cooks down into the food and they don't see the big chunks. So, as you've seen me do this before, probably, if you haven't, that's why we call it the Whopper Chopper, because we just give it a whop and it chops. You just put your thing down. Might be time for a new one of these because the blades are getting dull. Blades are getting dull, that's what I'm trying to think of. So we're just chopping our, and if you're struggling with it like I am, I'm going to cut these pieces smaller, and that really will help out make things go a little faster. Let's do this one too. I think I'm going to do all of this now because I'm sure you don't want to watch me do it. So I'll get a little bit done and then I'll show you the recipes that we can make this week with our veggies. There we go. There we go. That's good enough for now. I'll save the rest of this and I'll do it after this live is over. And if we don't eat it all this week, we can always, again, put it in the freezer for another day. I do have a lot more zucchini to use up, so let me know in the description box below or the comments below if there's something you want me to try to make with zucchini. If you want a good zucchini bread recipe or something like that, let me know and we'll see what we can do. Because I plan on making a lot of zucchini things this week. Okay, so we have our zucchini chopped. We'll go check on our tofu. Okay. Our tofu is definitely not done yet, so we're going to let that cook a little bit longer. It needs to be crunchy a little bit, okay? That's what we're looking for. All right, let's clean up our little mess. Make sure to do that. We'll use it later. Okay. All right, so let me grab my cookbook. And I'm going to put this off to the side. And we are going to go through this, and I'll show you the different things. The different things that we're going to make with it. If you don't have the cookbook already, sorry, I'm a little distracted. Sorry. If you don't have this cookbook already, a lot of people. You know, a lot of people I know have it, but if you're new to the channel and you don't have a copy of this cookbook yet, then I did just put it up available online for digital. You can go to the plantbasedstarterkit.com and look at that, but it's out of print. I would love to print it again someday soon. It's been a very popular cookbook because it's really a great resource if you're just starting out in a plant-based diet. So as I told you before, we have divided this main meal section up into categories. And so I'm just going to walk you through and show you the things that I would make with these piles of vegetables I just showed you this week to follow that kind of schedule. So the minestrone soup is really good. It does not call for zucchini because this was one of our easy dump and go recipes, but if you have zucchini, it's fantastic in there. I do it all the time. If you go to Olive Garden or something, they put zucchini in there. minestrone. So I'll just throw a handful in with the onions and peppers and stuff as I'm sauteing those. And it's also really good in the vegetable soup. And so all the soup recipes, you can throw those into. Pardon me, for the meat and potatoes day, you could really do a sauteed or grilled zucchini to put on the side with your meat and potatoes. But one of the things I did in the Kidlicious cookbook that was super popular with my family, especially my husband and my daughter, was the veggie presents. We wrapped them in parchment paper and cooked them and steamed that way. If you don't want to do the parchment paper or you're cooking outside, you can do it on the grill in like a foil pack, and it's so good. It's really, really easy. Just a few ingredients besides the vegetables. It's really mostly vegetables and a little bit of Italian seasoning. It also is good in the rainbow soup. But after that, another great recipe to add this to make with these mix of vegetables is going to be your Italian, your pasta primavera, or your pasta with spring vegetables. Both of those are really good different pasta dishes. This one has like a garlic buttery sauce instead of a Alfredo sauce. You can even add it to your tomato sauce. Anything with pasta it goes great with. If you wanted to make the zucchini patties that are in this book, you could do those with a spaghetti. Instead of like a meatball, you do these little zucchini patties. That's a great way to use on pasta day. And then for Mexican day, I'm going to make fajitas out of them. So you can do a fajita burrito, you can just do fajitas, you can do them as a topping or a slaw on top of a taco. So this is a great way to use these vegetables up just in a different way. And then lastly, you can always make a nice stir-fry sauce and stir-fry all these vegetables up and make it into a stir-fry and serve that over rice. And so you have a good variety of things that you can make just with these vegetables, and you can cook them in different ways to make them taste a little different. So the next thing I want to do is to get started on the fajitas. Get it out of the way. So to get started on the fajitas, I need a pan. Sorry, that was a little loud. Okay, so to get started on the fajitas, let me rinse this off. It's getting dusty in there. I am going to move my camera over to the stove so you can watch me cook those things. And so give me just a minute to do that. I'm just getting used to these lives. I'm not super good at them yet. Someone suggested to me that we do lives and I cook through the cookbook. So I might do that. If that sounds like a good idea to you, let me know down in the description box below if that sounds like a good idea to you. There we go. I'm going to turn this on. And we're going to get started with the fajita vegetables. Now, I'm going to do my fajita vegetables a little different than a lot of people do. I'm going to chop everything up fine. You saw how I chopped my vegetables. I like them chopped smaller because I think they're easier to eat. If you go to a Mexican restaurant, you're typically going to see the vegetables all in big strips, and they kind of feel slimy to me that way. I don't know why. And maybe my old childhood coming back, but I like the vegetables to be chopped fine. So that's what we're doing here. The bigger chunks would be good too, but they cook faster, and I like to keep everything kind of uniform. I think I need a few more peppers. Now I'm going to cook these first, the onions and the peppers. And then I'm going to add to the onions and peppers the zucchini and summer squash and probably a little spinach. And that will make a nice fajita vegetable. But let's get those going. One thing you could do to speed up kind of the cooking process of vegetables is to add a little salt. It draws the water out a little faster. I know somebody's going to complain about me using iodized salt, but it does work. And then, so we're just going to let those cook down for just a minute. Check on this tofu. Let's see what the tofu looks like. You can see it's getting dry and a little bit crumbly. We want it to be even drier. You can tell that it's not dried yet, it's still very soft, so let's let that go for a little bit longer. Okay. So to this, I just need to let that cook for a minute. So while it's cooking, let me tell you, while that's cooking, I figured I'll tell you about the starter kit for a minute. If you haven't seen the starter kit yet, it includes my cookbook and all the great recipes in there and all of the resources, but it also has other resources. Let me show you what it has in there. It also has included in the, with the cookbook, it gives you a checklist showing you how to stick to a plant-based diet. It gives you a step-by-step guide to what you need to do, how to keep it super simple. Start by adding vet foods and not taking away foods, because that helps your body to get used to the different foods that you're eating and adjust more quickly. It also helps you to create better habits before you try to go cold turkey and then get frustrated or overwhelmed or not able to stick with it. And then I also keep my, give you my meal planning guide. There's a 3-step plan. There's a whole framework on how to plan meals. There's some worksheets to fill out so that you can make your own meal plans that really work for you. Again, creating a system that works for you in your kitchen is going to make you more successful at sticking to a plant-based diet or even just eating more plants. So we also include a pantry worksheet. This is a free giveaway that some of you have already downloaded, but it also include with this my easy swaps and a glossary of terms for these things if you don't know what certain things are when you're looking at recipes and you're like, what is that? Why would I use it? That kind of thing. And then lastly, I'm really excited about, this is new, it is my eating out guide. And this plant-based eating out guide gives you some ideas on what you can eat when you go out, because a lot of people feel super isolated when they try to go plant-based, and there's really no need to be isolated, because there's so many things that you can eat when you go out, especially nowadays. Everybody's trying a plant-based diet, or everybody's trying to go vegan or whatever. And the truth is, you don't have to be super, super healthy when you go out. You just have to try to get your fruits and vegetables and try to avoid meat, and you can do all of that and still go out to eat. So I've included in that kit, in that guide, I Googled some of the most popular restaurants, and I included like meal plans or what you might eat when you go to that restaurant, so maybe menu ideas that I might order when I went there. And it kind of gives you different categories. So if you want to go all in plant-based, this is what I would order. If you're just trying to go plant-based and you want to go out with your friends, but you want to still be a little healthy, this is what you can order. And I also gave links to those restaurants that have their list of what they say you can eat, what's included. If you're real concerned about certain ingredients, maybe you've got an allergy or something, or just don't want to eat a certain thing. And that's all available in the plant-based starter kit, and you can find that at theplantbasedstarterkit.com, and I'll put a link in the description box below. Once this live is over, I can put some things in the description box, so I'll go ahead and do that. Let's check over here on our veggies and see what they look like. Alright. If I could go on, you notice I didn't put any oil in the skillet, and you do not have to put oil in the skillet. I like to add oil later for a couple of reasons. One, you don't have to heat up the oil, but number two, because I don't want to add oil in both places. If I can save oil here, then I can add it later and it'll add a lot of flavor that I want to add. So a little trick you can use when you're sauteing vegetables and they're starting to stick a little bit is do what they call sweating vegetables. And to do that, you've got your vegetables cooking, and you just add a little smidge of water and it quickly steams up and evaporates. And that kind of steams your vegetables really quickly without them sticking, and that keeps them from sticking. So I think it's time to add the zucchini and the summer squash. I'm just going to add this whole thing because I feel like if this tofu comes out good, I'm going to not only have this for supper tonight, but I'm also going to take it for a lunch tomorrow. I can make a bowl or make it into a wrap or a burrito or whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt to this. I'm going to sneak, sorry, my arm is in the way, but here we go. I'm going to just add a little salt. This is kosher salt, of course, salt. All right, now the trick here is we got to add some seasoning to this, and this is going to be fajita flavored, so I'm going to add some taco seasoning to it. Also going to add some garlic. Onions and garlic make everything better. Now, if I were making this and putting this in my pasta primavera, instead of cooking it like this, I would cook it the same, but instead of adding the taco seasoning, I would add some of the broccoli and some of the cauliflower, and I would add Italian seasoning. Something like that to it. If you don't have Italian seasoning, you can use basil and oregano, and that will season up these vegetables nicely, and they'll make your pasta primavera so much better. One really good thing, because it's summertime and you might have a basil plant sitting around, you can add some fresh basil, but add that at the very end because that will add a lot more flavor. Now, and if you're doing this and you want to do say something more of a oriental flavors, instead of adding the taco seasoning, you might add some soy sauce, and you might use, that's really all probably I would do, because when you do an oriental meal, all that flavor is in the sauce that you're adding. You don't need to fight with that. I would just add a little soy sauce to this so that they have a little bit of a oriental taste to them. Another great thing that you can do with a mixture like this is to cook it all up ahead of time without the seasoning, just season it with salt, and then add seasoning throughout the week for whatever you're making. But today we're making fajitas. I'm going to add some spinach to this. I always add spinach last because that just, let me dump it all in there. Because that will just help it to wilt down. You feel like it's sticking a little bit. You can see here it's sticking a little bit. I'm going to add some more water and do a quick steam. The pan wasn't quite as hot because I added all those extra veggies. And that's going to be our fajita veggies, and we're going to turn these off here, and I think they're ready to go. They'll be great in our burritos or in a taco, and I'll show you that in a little bit, but first I want to check on our tofu. So let's go ahead and turn this off. let's check on the tofu. All right, we are getting there. It gets pretty crunchy. Let's give it a couple more minutes and then I'll show you what we're going to do with that next. All right, I am excited about the fajitas. I want to show you how I would make them up. I'm not serving them right now because I'm filming a video and also my husband's not home. So I'll show you how I would serve them up and I'll try one, but we'll eat them later today. We're gonna add some, I do have some refried beans that I kept in the freezer. One really great tip for when you are trying to go plant-based and you're just getting started is to make extra of whatever you're doing. So I made refried beans, I don't know, months ago, and I packaged them up into smaller containers and froze them. And that way, when I needed them for a meal, all I had to do is go pop them out of the freezer instead of, you know, making a whole new batch of beans, because beans take a little bit of time. And so that is how I kind of avoid doing all this cooking. Let me all right, I think the beans are hot. They're gonna be super hot, and I'm going to these veggies in this bowl. One really important tip that I forgot to tell you is that when you are cooking a lot without oil, it's really good to have nonstick pans. If you're trying to cook without oil, if you try to use it like a stainless steel or something like that, everything's going to stick to it. And there's ways to not use it, but it's just a lot more work. I feel like this way is a lot easier. I'm making a lot of dirty dishes. All right, so we have some fajita veggies. We have some beans. I'm going to go out to my garden a little bit and I'll make a homemade pico with some tomatoes and onions and cilantro. But until then, let's get the rest. Ooh, that's what I need to do. Sorry, I almost forgot what I was doing. We have to finish off that tofu. Now we seasoned it with cornstarch and taco seasoning. We want to create a chicken broth to add to it, and that's going to soften it back up again. So I have a cup of water here, and I have some Better Than Bouillon, no chicken broth, that I can't open. Okay, wait. I have a friend who does this for ministry. She makes these, and it does really help when you're trying to, see, look at that. You need one of these if you don't have one, to open lids. All right, now we're going to add a spoonful of this to the water, and that's going to make me a nice chicken broth, or no chicken broth as it were. So you want to get this all dissolved in there because you do not want chunks of that bouillon paste mixed into your tofu. Okay, that's ready. Now we need some tortillas. Now, I was at the store and I'm always trying to try new things. I found these Mexican blend tortillas. These are corn and flour tortillas. They are pretty good. I like them. I kind of go between loving corn tortillas and not. Flour tortillas, our corn tortillas are a little healthier than flour tortillas. There's a little bit less calories, and they typically are a little bit more whole grain, but these are the corn tortillas. If you want to use flour, it's super fine. We, a lot of times, use the extreme wellness tortillas because they have a lot of extra added protein. It just gives a little something to your meal. But white tortillas would be fine for this. You're getting plenty of protein, you're getting plenty of vegetables. Again, we want to eat about about 2 servings of vegetables at every meal, or 2 servings of fruit. One thing I like to do to my tortillas is to char them a bit before I eat them. So I'm going to do that real quick while I'm doing the tofu. So let me show you the tofu. I think it's ready to go. So here we are. I'm going to grab the tofu out of the oven here. It took about 20 minutes for that tofu to get cooked. But if you're doing a bunch of it at one time and you don't have to do it at mealtime, it's really a time saver. So let's dump the tofu straight into the pan. You can hear it's kind of clunky. It's not necessarily how you would want to eat it, but the trick to this is to get it in a pan and add the chicken broth to reconstitute it. That gives a nice texture on the outside of your tofu, and it's still juicy inside because it soaks up the broth. Lots of flavor. So let's do that. We don't need all of that broth. So I'm going to cook this down. And let this tofu soak up all of this broth. Have you tried the Better Than Bouillon yet? I really like it. If you don't know where to find it, you can find it in the soup section of your grocery store. And you have to be careful. They do have some regular or some with real chicken and some with no chicken. So it should look for the ingredients. They've got the no chicken, and they also have a no beef, which looks like this. And then they also have a sauteed onion. So if you really like the flavor of caramelized onions, but you don't really have time to caramelize them, then you can buy those, and that's a really great way to add flavor to your vegetarian or plant-based foods if you're used to adding, a regular broth or a stock to a meal or a recipe. This looks like it's going to take a few minutes. It needs to kind of boil and soak in. So while it's doing that, let's go over, and I'm going to, before we do that, let's go ahead and I will show you how I do my tortilla. For whatever reason, this burner does not light by itself, so I gotta light it myself. Oh, sorry. Forgot you weren't on the screen over there. You're over here. Okay. So I'm going to add my tortilla here. This just needs to be hot. And we're going to just brown it lightly. This tofu looks fantastic. I'm very excited about it. Just look how good that tofu looks. That will be a great addition to a lot of these recipes. This is the taco flavored, but we could do, like I said, Italian flavored or something with Oriental. It would be great, a great protein to keep in the fridge for these quick and easy meals. Because to be honest with you, I don't cook a lot during the week. I don't have time. I get home from work late, and I don't like to eat super late. Takes a minute to get that pan hot. I've got it on high. Ooh, I think it's about done. You see how we're getting the little brown dots? We're getting a few bubbles. That's when we know we're making good progress. Do this one too. This is one of the flour and corn one mixed together. And this one is just a corn tortilla. Starting to get a few bubbles. Didn't get any brown spots that time. Again, you don't need any oil when you're doing this. You just need to warm it up. One thing I would say about this tofu, beyond the fact that it looks delicious, is that I think maybe I don't need as much liquid as it said. So I think it's probably about done. I'm going to put some into a bowl, and we are going to see what it tastes like. Okay, so you see our tortilla, it's got the little bubbles and it's getting a little bit browned, so it's ready to go. Now I'm going to make two little fajitas over here, and I'll show you how we do that. It's going to be so good. I'm very excited. I think, oops, there we go. There we go. Are we ready to try it? I kind of want to try the tofu by itself. It's hot. Fork. That really is really good. Okay, so now I'm really excited. Let's put a spoon in the beans and a spoon in the vegetables. There you go. So we're going to do some beans. Do beans here. I'm going to put in some veg. Now, if you wanted to add, I would probably add pico to this, and I would probably, maybe a little cheesy sauce, but we'll do that a little bit later. Right now, I'm just, don't want to keep you here all day watching me make fajitas. Okay, so now we've got some tofu. We can, again, make this in batches and stick it in the fridge. You have it all week to throw into things. This is, I'm kind of sold on this. I haven't tried other flavors yet, so keep your eye out for that. Maybe next week we'll try something new. Okay, let's try it. That is so good. That's better than going to a restaurant, I think. If you're trying to go plant-based and need new ideas and ways to eat healthier, then subscribe to the channel. There'll be new recipes up every week, and I know you're going to love this one, so let me know in the comments below if you've tried it, or if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help. Thanks. Talk to you again soon.